Tell you, things just went from bad to worse. And I don't even know if that's the right word. I mean, like super bad. So, as you know, I've been working, about a month now on these solar panels, trying to get it all set up so we can run the well pump. And as you know, I just bought a new charge controller, so now I have 2 charge controllers, bought 2 new solar panels, so now we have 1,200 watts of solar panels. And as a result, we've been able to run the well. That is probably the most critical thing or exciting thing, I'm not even sure what word to use, that has happened out of this whole thing. I mean, I've always been pretty happy about living off grid, but always in the back of my mind, I always worried about water. Now, I've said in the past that we got that natural spring down the hill, and if something were to go wrong, I'd be able to go down that natural spring and get water. But again, in the back of my mind, I knew I was wrong. Oh, nearly 20 years ago, I've told you in the past that I was a pretty big conspiracy theorist. I did a lot of prepping, stockpiling foods and different things, but we lived in a municipality. A small one, but still a municipality. And we had backyard ducks and chickens and goats and sheep all on our little backyard in a municipality. And I always like to say that we were prepared, we could handle anything, but I knew I wasn't. In the back of my mind, I absolutely knew I wasn't, because we lived on city water. Now, we had this little old, shallow well. It was about 15 feet deep and it collected water, but it was just filthy water. We'd had to figure out a way to filter it and boil it, and I just knew no matter what I did, I was not prepared. Having to rely on that generator to get water out of the ground always had me concerned. Now, I'd always said, and it was true, that I could, if I needed to, get water out of the ground through solar panels, but it would have been on a rare occasion. But now I've rearranged all of the stuff, all the electric stuff, the solar panels, the charge controller, the batteries, and I've made it a lot more efficient. I'm getting a lot more amps into the batteries per hour, and now I can run the well. I turned the well on about 9:30, fill up the IBC tank, and by 12 o'clock the batteries are fully charged. If I needed to, on a day like this, I could fill it again. We haven't had a lot of cloudy days. Yesterday was partly cloudy, and we were still able to use the well, but I don't know what we would do in the wintertime. I'm going to experiment this winter, see what we can do. But I think for the most part, we're going to be able to get through it. I'm going to get some more batteries. I think that'll help us. But no amount of batteries will get you through a week or two without recharging the batteries, with the solar panels, with it being cloudy. So we'll see, but I feel a lot better than I did last year. So we're making a lot more amps. So now I have this higher confidence level that we can get water out of the ground if something bad were to happen. I don't have to rely on that natural spring. My concern about the natural spring has always been water is going to become a commodity. Everybody talks about gold. You need gold for SHTF. Stuff hits the fan. But I don't want gold. I want water and food. I've said this many times. I would rather trade firewood, water, and food. That's what I would want, firewood, water, food, for something. So if you had this natural spring down the hill, don't you think all the gangs, for lack of a better word, are going to go down there and demand services and products, whatever you have, in exchange for that water? They're going to make that water hole theirs. So if you're not part of the gang, you're probably going to have to pay for it. And it's kind of scary to think what they might want in exchange for the water. So that always worried me. And I hear a lot of people in the comment section say, oh, I got a water supply, I got a lake, I got this. But in the same subject, they will talk about, oh, you got to watch out for the hordes of people. Well, so the hordes of people aren't going to be by the water. No, the hordes of people that'd be the first place they go, is towards water. Water is life. Without water, you don't have anything. You can go a few days without food. You can eat worms. But without water, you're not going to make it. Got to have water. So now I got water, and I feel about 80% better than I did before about it. Now, people will say, oh, you need to have a backup to your water. And I do. I got an extra well pump. But people are going to say, well, what if your solar panels go out on you? Well, if solar panels go out on me, then I can devise a little device. You can actually buy these things where you drop it down in the well and you pull it out, get water out. I forget what they're called, but it's a long tube. You drop it down in the well. Or I can get a hand pump. And I've talked about getting a hand pump. I don't know, I'm just not that worried about it. I think we're in pretty good shape. But the other thing is I'm not a prepper. I keep saying this, I'm not a prepper. So trying to defend my system to preppers is a futile effort. I just want to live off grid, and that's the big thing. To me, prepping, I think I'm probably in better shape than 99% of the people on the planet, including the preppers. I mean, I watch these preppers. I've given up on watching them because, I mean, it's always a horror story. Oh, tomorrow the world economy is going to collapse. Just wait and see, I'll tell you. They come back on tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow we're going to have a food shortage. Just wait and see. And none of it comes true, but people will come back in hordes watching their videos, waiting for the next catastrophe that never happens. I mean, today I watched one, and that's what brought up this video. I watched one, and he literally said, I can't get food anywhere. Oh, yeah, you can. Go to the grocery store, man. What are you talking about? You can't get food anywhere. I mean, if there was no food, I can guarantee you every person in this area would be out there with their guns right now, getting possums and raccoons and squirrels and rabbits and deer. I haven't heard a gunshot in days. We live in Missouri, so there's a lot of fireworks, but no gunshots. So, I mean, they over-exaggerate everything, and people come back day after day after day to listen to their fear-mongering. That's all it is. And that's what's so funny is, I'm not fear-mongering, I'm telling you, tomorrow there's no food. I wake up tomorrow and guess what, there's food. Whew. I was awful afraid for not being feared-mongered. But I feel like I can handle 90% of anything thrown my way, at least for a couple of years. That's a good long time where you can rework your situation. Even if my solar panels did fail within those couple of years, I could figure out other ways of getting water out of that well. You know, whether it's just dropping a cup down in the well and bringing it back up to get water out of it. You know, things like that. I did that when we first got here. I wanted to see how deep the well was. And we dropped a cup down in there to see how deep it was. So, I mean, all these things are absolute options. You put a rock in a coffee can, something a little skinnier than a coffee can, you can drop it down in that well. You'll get water out of it. It'll be a lot of work, but you can do it. But the key is I do have water, an endless supply of it. At least probably for the rest of my life, there's an endless supply here. Well, then people will just try to one-up you. You'll talk about, okay, well, I got water. Well, what if an EMP happens? You're not going to be able to survive that. Well, yeah, EMP hits, and supposedly, based on I don't know what, if an EMP hits, it will knock out my charge controller and my inverter. The panels will be okay, and so will the batteries. But the two things that make the whole system go, well, I guess all the things that make the system go, but those two things could go out. Well, I decided I would conduct an experiment today. So I guess I'm going to have to show up all the people, you're never going to survive an EMP. There's my Faraday cage right there. It just occurred to me this morning, I have a Faraday cage. So I came down with my cell phone. I have full bars here. I closed the door and I didn't have any signal. Even though the tower is just down the road. I mean, I can see the tower at night when it flashes sometimes. So I mean, it's pretty close. And now we don't have anything in the shed. So I got a Faraday cage. Oh, well, you know, what is the next one? I can guarantee you that at the bottom of this video, somebody's going to tell me that there's going to be something worse. You're never going to be able to survive this. But here's the thing. All these people who are telling me that I'm not going to survive have no chance of surviving. Even these YouTube preppers. There's one who I actually think can make it. I really like him. I mean, I don't watch him very often, but I do like his idea. His personality just doesn't match with mine, so I subscribe to his channel, but I don't watch his videos. I mean, I hate that I say that, but it's just kind of grinding on me, the way he presents his videos, which I'm sure there are people out there that don't like my videos, so I guess I can say that honestly, but I do like his idea. I really like his ideas. So I think he's got it nailed. He does think in realistic terms. Whereas these other preppers, oh, I got a freezer, it's full and it's big. And you're telling me that if an EMP hits, we're not gonna have any electric. What are you gonna do, blow on the freezer to keep it cold? I mean, I'm not sure how you're gonna keep it cold. And that's what is so confusing about these preppers, is they almost talk themselves out of being preppers. Okay, I got a stockpile of food in the freezer. Well, you should be canning all that food. As I've said that in the past, if the grid ever did go down, even though I feel like we have it really made now with water, I don't think we have a problem. I would take everything out of the freezer and I would can it. And I've showed you my videos on canning. You can go to my channel, go to playlist, scroll down, you'll see canning videos. We have several hundred cans of food. Meat, canned meat, because we're carnivores. And we actually feed our cat canned chicken, the stuff we canned. It's cheaper than going out and buying canned food. And then we bought her dry food, because some people say that there's missing nutrients in chicken. I don't think it does, but I don't want to make her sick. So we feed her canned food. So we can all our food up immediately. Take us 10, 15 days to get done. We got plenty of solar panels to run the freezer in those 10 or 15 days. And then the solar panels can be completely dedicated to the water. We have a backup water pump, a well pump. So if the well pump ever went out, we'd have that taken care of. But these guys, they just don't make sense. They talk about how they're so prepared, at the same time telling us how they're not prepared. I don't get it. It's always a big catastrophe coming every day, and they're so prepared for this big catastrophe, but they're not. I mean, one guy was talking about a train wreck in Ohio. I'm sure you all remember that. He was talking about, well, you got to have a gas mask, and you got to make sure your can of food is clean. And he's talking about all this stuff. And I said in my video, the best way to be prepared for that is to be debt-free, having a big savings account where if you needed to, you could just leave and buy another piece of property. That's prepared. But some of these people are so stuck in their loans, they never get out of it. So they have to figure out how they're going to continue to pay their loans in a contaminated area, wearing a gas mask for the rest of their lives. These people don't make sense. And I almost feel like I have to tell you, you need to stop watching these guys, because they're lying to you. I mean, it seems like I shouldn't tell you to do that you're smart enough to make your own decisions. But these guys keep getting huge audiences coming back every day with this big fear of the day, and they have no plan. This one YouTuber has specifically said, I'm not going to tell you how to prepare, I'm just going to tell you what you need to prepare for. And he's not prepared. I mean, he's got all the toys in the world, but he's not prepared. You're not going to run your house for a week on a solar generator. Just not going to do it. You got to have a better plan. So what I would like for you to do is go back and watch maybe the last month's worth of videos, and I show you step by step everything I did to get more power out of my solar panels. And in the process, I showed you how to set them up. And I've got several people in my audience now saying that they're actually going to start buying a solar panel and a charge controller. You can have one panel, one battery, charge controller, and an inverter for about $400. And then you can just add on to it. Once you see how easy it is, you can add on to it and you'll have a great system within a year. I mean, the panel is $80, charge controller is $100, battery's $100, inverter's $100, so $400, you got it all. And that'll get you started. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about my days on a submarine. So I hope I can inspire you. Don't be caught up in the fear mongering. Just live your dreams so you can survive SHTF. Thanks for watching.